Hi, everybody. My name is Jacklyn White, and I am very excited today to have the opportunity to share a resource with you that I have used both as a parent of two beautiful children and as an educator of 27 years. And I know we are all going through a very difficult time right now. And it's during times like these that we really have to lean on each other and support each other. Kindness, patience, compassion, and empathy are more important now than they ever have been. And I'm so grateful to be part of a community that holds these values at its core. So, with that in mind, I would like to share a resource with you that all families and all educators can use with children. And if you are together in the same house with the children, you can do this live. If you are separated and apart at this moment in time, you can do it via Zoom or FaceTime, or you can do it through a video like I'm doing today. And the best part about this resource is that it requires absolutely no materials and it's 100% free. It doesn't cost a cent. The only thing that it requires is your creativity, your imagination, and your desire to connect with the people that you love and care about. And I know we all have those things. So let's get right into it. I'm going today to focus on the power of oral storytelling. We're going to talk about the history, the positive benefits and impact of storytelling, and I'm going to give you an example of an oral story and some tips on how to do and tell really good oral stories yourself. So let's dive right in. I'm going to minimize my image so we can share the screen together. So, the power of oral storytelling. So we are all made of stories. Everybody has a story. We all have a story. Before there was writing, before there was reading, stories existed because people existed. We existed. From the beginning, people have sought to communicate with one another. This has been a very important part of communities. And oral stories, or stories that are told aloud, was one way in which people communicated. So nobody knows the exact history of oral storytelling. However, historians have traced storytelling to over 30,000 years ago, where even in the earliest of civilizations, groups of people would gather together around small spaces and they would tell stories. These stories were not only a way to entertain each other and to pass the time, they had a really important role. They were the transfer of cultural beliefs. They taught moral principles. They communicated important news and information, and they helped people make sense of the origins of life and the universe and all the living things. But most importantly, oral storytelling provided the opportunity for humans to connect and bond with one another. And so these stories took various forms: songs, poetries, chants, and dance, and they were shared in community circles, and they created human connectedness that bonded groups of people and helped them develop identity in relation to their self and to the micro communities of which they were a part. Today, in present time, formal storytelling has changed dramatically. It has moved mainly to illustrated books, television, and big screen movies. And although all of these have their virtues, they have taken center stage, and the practice of oral storytelling has greatly diminished. However, storytelling is so important for our children. We know from research that oral storytelling reinforces the development of an individual's social and emotional abilities, their cognitive growth, as well as really important language skills. So, how does oral storytelling develop social and emotional skills? So, storytelling helps children develop social and emotional literacy. It helps them make sense of their world. It helps them foster growth in self-expression and awareness of self-identity. It helps them develop empathy by learning to appreciate different points of view and other perspectives. Research also emphasizes that educators and families that reflect about the events of the day together with their young children actually help them recount events with a deeper emotional understanding. Cognitively, storytelling is very powerful. Stories without the use of images requires children to create their own images and their own visuals in their head. This skill is called visualization, and it's essential for children to develop, and storytelling orally really helps them do so. In terms of language development, a child who listens to the story out loud without the visual stimuli, they're activating their auditory system and their language processing systems. The child has to process the information through verbal prompts and through physical cues such as gestures and tones and intonations to understand the story. They're also learning that language is a combination of words and all of these tones and gestures. Children are also exposed to new vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. And by telling their own story, they're activating their expressive language skills and practicing their own narratives. So oral storytelling is a powerful tool for both educators and families to use. It provides a really rich opportunity for groups of people to reflect, to share cultural folk tales, to exchange their own understanding of their identities, to develop community mores, and to instill morals and values. It helps to develop creativity through the invention of new stories. But most importantly, storytelling is a powerful way to connect and bond people to one another in a rich and engaging way. And during this time of separation, we really need to find ways to stay connected. We really need to hear and see and love and value and respect our children in the most powerful ways possible. All the activities and engagements that we plan, all the distance learning programs, of course, those are all designed to help our children continue to learn and grow, but the focus is not there. Right now, the focus is on developing pathways to maintaining our relationships and to fostering our connections. If we lead with love, if we develop a curriculum of the heart rather than a curriculum of academics, we will make it through this difficult time and we'll be stronger for it. So, how do we choose a story? Choosing a story is very important, and there's all different kinds of stories that you can choose. You can choose from folk tales around the world. This is a great way to develop cultural competency and global perspectives. You can tell stories about your own family, about generations previous, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. This helps children to develop their identity and connection to their family. Educators can tell stories about their classroom communities. What did you learn together? What adventures did you go on? What projects did you explore? What made you laugh together? You can tell stories that were created by the children. You can tell stories that reference historical time frames or geographical regions. And you can also develop domains such as science, math, social studies, and arts, all through storytelling. I'd like to talk a little bit more about what I mean when I say we can develop domains in science and math and arts through storytelling. So if we look at science, stories around star lore, world myths of the sea and its creatures, folklores of flowers and folk tales of habitats and animals, biographies of important scientists and the history of invention. If we explore the interconnectedness or ecology of all things, and if we explore the cause and effect relationships in stories, we're developing scientific literacy. Mathematically, we can tell stories about great mathematicians and the history of the development of mathematical concepts. We can explore mathematical concepts by recounting a tale and the sequence of events talking about the architecture of a story. Was it circular, linear, story within a story, or was it cumulative? There's all kinds of problem solving that goes on in stories. For instance, why do folktales often display the power of three? And what about how does the story change with the intersection of characters based on perspective or point of view? And can we diagram and map the plot lines of stories? We also can develop our understanding of art by telling stories around a poignant painting, mural, or sculpture, around important artists in visual and in performing arts, and how does art imitate life? But once again, we always come back to the most important thing, the most important goal that we all need to have right now, and that's connections. We need to focus on maintaining and fostering those deep connections and relationships, not only with ourselves, but with our children. So I have created an oral story that you can listen to, or more importantly, that you can share with your young, amazing human. I chose to tell the story of The Lion and the Little Mouse, an Aesop's fable, because I was able to weave in some important development in skill, but also I love the message of kindness and the power of positive action that is embedded in this story. So some things to look for when you're listening to the story, and some things that you can ensure to incorporate when you're doing your own oral storytelling. So pay attention to voice. Use your voice to support children to make meaning. Change your pitch and your tempo and your rhythm. Show changes in emotions of characters, and use pitch and speed to enhance the story meaning. Characterization. Use different sounding voices and body language and gestures for different characters. Children love when you change your voice and use your body to tell the story. Spoken word, make sure to clearly pronounce your words, include all parts of the narrative, and create emotional suspense through your words. And then gestures, body language, and facial expressions. Use gestures to go along with the key phrases. This helps improve meaning making for children. And when there's a moment of suspense or emotion, lean in and really exaggerate your expressions so that the children can use your expressions to make meaning from the story. There are also different components that you can weave in through props, through instruments. I did not use any of those in my story, but you are most welcome to do so. It really enhances a story when you include those things as well. So I thank you for joining me today as we explored oral storytelling. I wanted to make sure that I cited my references. I tapped into a lot of really brilliant educators who have a lot of knowledge about oral storytelling to help with our learning exploration today. So that's all I have for you today. I'd love your feedback. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And I wish you all so much health and happiness and peace during this time. And I'm sending you my heart. And I can't wait to see you virtually. And as soon as possible, I can't wait till we're all back together again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.